I, like a lot of people, have seen and loved the hit HBO Max shows Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, and Succession. And there's a lot of comparisons you could point out about them. White people, brutal, ugly fights for power within and outside familial lines, bastard sons, the rich and royal lineages being able to do whatever they want, whenever they want. Even the olden-style tongue and British actors that seem to fit so perfectly well with each other in both time periods. But there are so many more similarities, like the hype both of these shows were able to garner. And while there are probably many, many, many more, there is only one comparison I really want to touch on. The eerie similarities and stark differences between the Billionaire and the Dragon.
It's time, L to the OG. Dude be the OG. A-N he playing like a pro. C L to the OG.
I know you know what a dragon is. The unfathomably large, fire-breathing, scaly lizard with wings that can fly at Mach speed. We are extremely lucky that only our imagination has produced this beautifully horrific nightmare. And while I could get into the history of the folklore of dragons and how it differs depending from where you are or when you are, there are already plenty of videos that have done such a magnificent job already. My goal today is to compare the HBO representation of the dragon, the accepted representation of the dragon, and compare it to the idea of the billionaire. For all we know, the billionaires are as mythical and elusive as dragons. There's not many of them at all, even though according to Forbes, the most billionaires that have ever existed at one time are now. Nearly half of the world's wealth is owned by the richest percent, yet for most of these people, we know nothing about them. The most we get is the interview or the Twitter persona that is, of course, fed through teams of people to produce a likable and relatable image. Unless it's Elon Musk.
There was a repost of Ben Shapiro that you claim that DEI is killing people. Specifically, you point to medicine. You claim that DEI programs are putting people at risk. Do you really believe this to be true? And what evidence do you have to support it?
What I was referring to there was that if we lower the standards for doctors, such so that they, if the test for a doctor is lowered, then the probability of them making a mistake and killing someone is obviously going to be higher.
Except that they are very rapidly draining our planet's resources and manpower in service of driving up their investments, consumptions, and sustaining their harmful, lavish lifestyles. Oxfam, a global organization that fights inequality to end poverty and injustice, found that the wealthiest 1% of the world population emit as much carbon pollution as the poorest 2/3 of the entire human population. And while these studies are visible to anyone, many don't have the time or resources to care. The topic of billionaires has been created to be much more politicized than it needs to be. Another bipartisan talking point that only further bridges the rapidly growing divide between the two American parties. However, whether you're apolitical and don't care, or you truly believe billionaires have a right to exist, that's your prerogative. I've only stated facts. And the fact of the matter is, as our election cycles rotate in and out every 4 years, and more progress towards solutions like renewable energy and equitable taxes are halted and stifled, we as a people are stuck between a rock and a hard place. So why not fictionalize it?
It's time, L to the OG. Dude be the OG.
What I loved the most about Succession was, of course, its witty and biting satire on power and corruption. Or maybe it's incredibly Shakespearean yet tongue-in-cheek dialogue spoken by the cartoonishly stunted characters. Or maybe even okay, we get it, dude. You loved the show. But in all seriousness, Succession shouldn't work. Like, at all. Who wants to see rich family members yell childish insults at each other and do nothing but talk about who's on the will for a multi-billion-dollar news company? Also, on paper, who would even care about these guys? They're actively killing us, making our lives worse. They're entitled, they're racist, sexist, chauvinistic, and classist people. But at the end of the day, they still feel like real people. Jesse Armstrong has managed to humanize the billionaire, an incredibly difficult task that honestly always felt like uncharted territory to me. And human doesn't mean good or heroic. It means flawed. We can empathize or sympathize with the flawed. we are able to look past their vileness and feel pity for them, which is far more harmful than a dragon, a creature where empathy is not nearly as easy to extend. By coddling or sympathizing with these billionaires, we are less likely to reject them. So, what does this have to do with dragons? Well, in House of the Dragon, we frequently see these godlike beings interacting with the people, usually harmfully. And when they burn people to a crisp, we as viewers may be surprised or upset, but we really aren't that shocked. It's kind of what they are born to do. It just makes sense. They interact with their world the only way they know how. Dangerous, but what can you do? But on the other hand, what are billionaires? Hard workers? Innovators? When it comes to the Roys, they are grown adults who have ridden off their father's coattails. These people interact with their world the only way they know how, by making other people feel bad, even though they are people who have had every chance, every resource possibly available to better themselves when it comes to their outdated ideologies, their business practices, and even their family duties. But they don't. They never do. And I think that could even be fine if you're someone like me. Because my decisions do not affect nations. Millions of people. Everyone is affected, yet he would face absolutely no real consequences, except maybe losing out on the ability to fire his siblings. In Season 4, Episode 8, the fate of the American election is decided by the Roy News Network's ability to call the election early in tandem with the rising unpredictability that is taking place in swing states, in favor of an actual fascist to win. This is not hyperbole. And Kendall Roy is able to make this life-altering decision for us, not him, because his sister did something he didn't like and happened to be the only one backing the opposing candidate.
Don't we long sometimes for something clean? Once in this polluted land, that's what I hope to bring. Not something grubby with compromise. Something clean and true and refreshing.
He's a guy we can do business with.
The malicious use of their influence over a petty spat is extremely frightening. In House of the Dragon, we can watch dragons do horrible things like set cities on fire because of the sheer impossibility of them. Sure, yeah, they can bite you, burn you, trample you, and as horrible as it would be, the truth is it would be swift. We as viewers might even consider it possible to avoid them if you're not a soldier or live in the incredibly large capital of Westeros. With billionaires, it's a totally different story. What happens if one of them is a relapsing drug addict, like Kendall Roy, in need of a fix at a foreign place, like episode 10 of the first season? Your murder that he calls will go undiscovered, swept under the rug because it hurts their ability to make money. Or even on a grander level, Roman Roy's need to impress his family members has him rush a space launch, also in the finale of Season 1. Roman Roy releases a faulty product to show his family that he can be taken seriously, which almost definitely killed and maimed many people involved in its failure. Because of this, the billionaire is much more dangerous than the dragon, because of the real-world implications and ability to move in stealth. If they get mad, they can ruin our lives. Not very fair, is it? By no means am I calling for a swift removal of the world's richest percent. That would take time, meticulous planning, code languages. I'm kidding, Secret Service, whoever. That was a joke. I really just wanted to make this video to highlight a very real cause of some very real issues that we have in our society. People with exuberant wealth are constantly being given loopholes, and for some, they even use parts of their identity to shield them from criticism. Billionaires don't just have immunity, they are immunity. Imagine how much scarier a dragon would be if it could disappear, and wanted to make money off of you, and profited off of your misery, all while under no pressure or incentive to change its ways. In fact, our capitalist system rewards that very thought process. I hope I've made some good points, as this was my first ever analysis video, and while I've written a lot of papers, I've never translated them into video form. I recently wrote about Alien and its prominent themes of sexual assault, so that could be next. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.